It's the beginning of yet another year and a prime time for all of us to take stock of who we are, where we've been and where we want to go. Many of us start each year with big ideas, plans, hopes, and then we end the year with analysis and reflection. At the end of this year, some of us are going to look back on the year with joy. They're going to be excited about what they've achieved. They're going to be happy with what they've accomplished in their investments, in their business or in your personal life. We'll remember all the wins we had and the successes we had. But unfortunately for some, this year is going to end with disappointment, maybe even regret, about all those things that you wanted to accomplish but didn't. Now, if you're tired of making resolutions that go nowhere, tired of reaching for the stars only to land in the dirt, tired of running in place, then today's show is for you as I chat with Mark Creedon about the list of things that successful people don't do. And you're going to find out, just as importantly, what successful people do. And hopefully this will make this new year successful for you. So welcome to today's show.
Welcome to the Michael Yardney podcast, where twice each week you will learn a number of new ideas regarding success, property investment and money in around 30 minutes. Our show is brought to you by Metropole, who specialise in helping you grow, protect and pass on your wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. Now here's your host, Michael Yardney, Australia's authority in wealth creation through property, who has been voted one of Australia's top 50 most influential thought leaders.
Have you ever wondered what successful people do to become well, successful? Be they business people, entrepreneurs or property investors, their success is caused by all the things they've chosen to do and all the things they've chosen not to do. Sure, there are lots of books, blogs, podcasts on what successful people should do. Great books like 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. But today I want to talk about things successful people don't do. And these can be just as important as the to-dos on your path to success. And to work through this list, I'm joined today by Mark Creedon, founder of Business Accelerator Mastermind and coach to many very successful Australian business people, entrepreneurs and investors. So he should have a great insight into this as well. Hi, Mark.
Hello, Michael. This is going to be fun.
Yes, it is. Well, I know as a business coach and as my business coach and that of a lot of our directors at Metropole, the staff, but also a lot of clients from all walks of life, from small one-man businesses to multi-franchise car dealers. You're dealing in this sort of area all the time. So rather than talk about the traits that you see successful people do, what are some of the things you've come across that they don't do that help them become successful?
It's a really good starting point because I think there's lots of material out there about what people do. And I watch people try and emulate what they see people do. But understanding what people don't do and emulating that, I think, is just as, if not more important. And that's probably a nice segue to start with. One of the things I think successful people don't do is they don't make excuses.
That's interesting because this year a lot of things have gone wrong, and I know that you've been helping people, our clients, and in fact our team and people who clients of Business Accelerator Mastermind, who basically like blaming the government, COVID, the recession that may happen, high interest rates. It's so easy to externalize, and because things are going wrong out there.
Well, they are, and so therefore you don't actually have to look too hard for an excuse. But I think the thing that successful people don't do is they don't spend time feeling sorry for themselves. So when something comes along, there's an issue, it's COVID, it's interest rates, whatever it may be, but they simply take responsibility. If they get a setback, you'll hear them say, oh, well, and then they move on.
Yeah. So I think the other thing is they don't dwell on failures. Look, they know they're going to have failures. Things go wrong along the way. I've often jokingly said I'm a real success at failures, but they just accept it's part of the journey.
Well, they do, and they look at these sort of bumps as opportunities and opportunities to learn, to grow. They also see every failure as a step toward the next big win. And so it's a pathway. And so they actually learn from that process. So I guess it comes down, it's like that old story, Michael. It's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up that counts, isn't it?
Sure, it is. Now, we all have problems. We've had lots of problems this year, external things we haven't been able to control, some we have. So apart from not dwelling on their failures, I don't think they dwell on their problems either.
I was having a conversation may even have been with you. We were talking about somebody else in business that we both knew, and I was sort of saying, the issue for them is that they have a problem for every solution. And so, and I just know that, when you focus on the problems you're facing, your behavior kind of agrees with the stress. And ultimately, Michael, what it does is it hinders your ability to progress, and it becomes a bit like a self-perpetuating issue. You focus on the problems, it attracts more problems, doesn't it, Michael?
It's the whole story about, is the glass half full or is it the glass half empty? I'm a positive person, and I know you are, Mark, and I'm of the opinion that more people wake up in the morning wanting to solve problems than wake up looking to cause harm. But it's those people who cause the harm who have the negative messages that somehow or other seem to get the most attention, whether it's in the media or on social media. So don't look for problems, look for the upside and what you can do. But I guess this year's also been a great year of change in the economic climate, change in the weather climate, change in all sorts of areas. A lot of people resist it, but I've found that successful people accept it. They don't resist it.
No, they don't. I actually think they go one step further. What they often do is not just accept it, but actually embrace it. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, things are going to change, Michael. Plans, strategies, tactics change, but instead of getting upset and frustrated, what successful people do is they shift paths. So they kind of pivot. So they're always looking for, if things change, what's the opportunity that's going to bring? What's my way around this? What's the workaround? So it's the solution for every problem as opposed to the problem for every solution.
Sure. So planning is important, and it's important in property investing, it's important in business. Actually, it's important in your life. But the most important part of the plan is to plan for the plan, not to go to plan, as you've heard me say. So assume the worst, so prepare for it, but hope for the best. So you've got to be realistic and accept reality. And I think the other thing we were just saying is you should be prepared to change your mind as often as the facts change. People just look for, I guess, this confirmation bias in a world of change, and that leaves them behind, Mark.
Well, it does. And Michael, you and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about some things that are going on in various of our businesses. And you were very open to say, well, just because we've always done it this way isn't a good reason to why we should continue to do it this way. Circumstances have changed, markets have changed, environments have changed. Let's embrace that change and move along with it, Michael.
Well, we're working our way through a list of things successful people don't do. And I guess they've learned not to spend time or energy on stuff that's out of their control, Mark. They know that there's things they can't control, and yeah, it annoys them a bit. They're allowed to be upset for a short while, and then they move on.
That's right. So what is it? Control the controllable. So there's no sense in spending a whole bunch of time and energy and resources worrying or about things that you've got absolutely no control over. So what they tend to do is they realize they can't control them. I think, Michael, this is an indicator where successful people actually value their time and energy. So they don't waste time and energy on things they can't control.
Yeah, that's true. Now, one of the things I've noticed over the last year with property investors, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on business people, is that they've perceived a whole lot of risks in the market. The unknowns, the risk of rising interest rate, the risk of the property market collapsing, the risk of things going wrong. And I've found successful people don't fear risk. Now, that doesn't mean they jump in recklessly and do things without taking calculated decisions. They weigh the benefits versus the risks. And those who jumped in 2 years ago when COVID started and bought a property are looking pretty smart at the moment. Unfortunately, getting involved in property investment takes risks. It means you've got to be optimistic. It means you've got to put yourself out there. Also, keeping money. Actually, once you've made it, keeping it involves the opposite. You actually don't want to take risks. But when you get into business, and currently in the current business environment, and I know you deal with a lot of business people, there are risks out there, but people have different ways of looking at it.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I think life is full of risks. I mean, if you think as a young person, you ask somebody on a date, there's a risk. If you get married, there's a risk. If you go into business and buy property, there's risks in everything. But what successful people do is they do a calculation of those risks, and then they make a judgment based on that calculation, as opposed to being paralyzed in analysis. That old analysis paralysis, falling into that trap through that fear of risk. So they move beyond it, and make the calculations, and then make a decision as to what to do from there, Michael.
Yeah. Look, last show we did together a month or so ago, we had some great quotes from Morgan Housel. It was one of the most fun shows I did with you. And if people listening to this haven't listened to it, go back to wherever you're listening to that and have a listen to Mark and my discussions about the best Morgan Housel quotes. But one of the things he mentioned about risk is that risk management is less about how you respond to risk and more about recognizing how many things can go wrong before they actually do.
So, yeah, Michael, I mean, that's right. It is about understanding the risks, and also it's about sort of self-assessment, which is probably another thing I think that successful people don't do, is they don't worry about what other people think. They do their own calculations. They're less concerned about judgment. I mean, that's not to say that they won't speak up or defend their position, but they just tend to be a little bit better at navigating that process, I think.
Yeah, I don't think people are thinking as much or spending as much time thinking about you as we think they are. And I guess the other thing is they don't try to keep up with the Joneses either to impress other people as well.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, one of the other things I think successful people don't do is they don't make the same mistake twice. They make mistakes, they have failures, but they learn from them. Now, one of the ways I think you can do that is by talking through and recognizing them. And to me, that's one of the real benefits of having you as a business coach, of being part of a mastermind team, where you can speak with other people about the mistakes, the things that have gone wrong. It's interesting when you bring it up, when clients bring it up at Business Accelerator Masterminds group meetings. That's one of the big benefits of being part of the tribe. It's on Zoom or live occasionally as well, a couple of times during the year. But it's fascinating how other people have the same challenges, the same problems, and talking them through may hopefully prevent you making the same mistakes again.
Yeah, I was thinking about, as you were saying, they don't make the same mistake twice. So does that mean, Michael, that you and I aren't going to get married for a third time? We're not going to make the same mistake twice.
No, I'm very, very happy. And I'm able to say that even though I know Pam doesn't listen to these podcasts, I think we've been together 26 years now in our current relationship, and that's great.
Well, I suppose I better say something because I know Caroline does listen to these, so I better jump in and say how happy I am as well. Yeah, do you know, I think that the thing about it is that they're less concerned, successful people are less concerned about what other people are thinking. They're less concerned about asking for help and also from learning from other people's mistakes. So the reason they don't make, it's not just that they don't make that same mistake twice, but successful people, and you alluded to with the intensives and the sessions in Mastermind, is successful people actually share that mistake. So they come along and go, Michael, don't do that. I made that mistake. Let me show you so that you can learn from my mistake without you having to make it as well.
Now, people would wonder about that concept. Do people really open up at Mastermind and talk about their mistakes and help other people? Yes, if you're in the right tribe of people who will drag you to the next level and bring you up to their level or share experiences, that gives you a huge advantage, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I guess we sometimes we say that we say no to more people than we say yes to joining Mastermind, because that's the people that we want in Mastermind, and they do. They prevent each other from making mistakes by sharing the mistakes that they've made in the past.
Another thing that successful people don't do is they don't give up. Ever. Again, we keep talking about failures, but I guess this is important to recognize that, yeah, they get things wrong, they do fail, but that doesn't stop them trying again.
There's this great story of, I'm sure one of our listeners will know this better than I do, but Winston Churchill was invited to speak at a graduation ceremony. It may be in Oxford, maybe in Cambridge, not sure. They were very thrilled to have Sir Winston Churchill, and the Dean gave this great big introduction about the amazing Sir Winston. Winston walked on stage and leaned into the microphone and just said, "Never, ever, ever, ever give up," and walked off stage.
Yes. I remember when I had many challenges long time ago, one of my friends said that, and it actually gave me great inspiration as well. Now, one of the other things that successful people don't do is envy others. They actually don't resent other people's successes. Now, unfortunately, there is a lot of tall poppy syndrome in Australia, and whether it's regarding the wealthy and the rich people who own more properties than some people do, and so therefore people think that they've done the wrong thing to get there, or whether it's in business success, I think unless you can appreciate other people's success and be happy for them as opposed to envy them, you'll never be successful yourself.
No, you won't. I speak to some of my American friends, and they don't understand this tall poppy concept because they celebrate if somebody's achieved success and they've moved, even if it's the success that you wish you'd had, they still celebrate it and they acknowledge it. Whereas we do have a bit of a tall poppy syndrome. But I think really successful people here, they don't engage in that envy. Michael, what is it that you always say that you shouldn't compare your chapter 10 to somebody else's chapter 23 or whatever the numbers may be?
That's definitely one way of looking at it. The other is there's been some news again about the top 1% of the world owning 80-something% of the assets in the world, and that's not fair. Well, the first thing I'd like to tell people who argue about that is no, life isn't fair. But the second thing I'd like to tell them is if you're listening to this podcast, if you are living in a Western country, you are already in that top 1% of the population anyway, because there are billions of people in this world who would love to be in your position and swap places with you.
Yeah, it's a very sobering thought, isn't it?
Okay, I think the other thing that successful people don't do is they don't expect quick success, whether it's in property, whether it's in business. I mean, there's still the emails out there saying you can buy 10 properties in 10 months, you can bypass the banks, I've got a way of getting around all this. And I know a lot of people go into business, Mark, thinking, well, my boss is stupid, I can do it better, I can become wealthy quickly.
Yeah, they do. Unfortunately, a lot of them end up closing their doors, sadly. It's the long game. What you're saying in property markets, it's time in the market, not on the market. It is playing long. It's the same in business. You've got to play a long game. So I find that successful people are in it to win. They understand it could take time, and sometimes years, and so they're prepared to play that long game. Patience is absolutely a virtue for them, and they don't expect those immediate results. They understand that if it's about consistency and continuously putting in, then they'll reap the benefits in due course, Michael.
Sure. I think it was Warren Buffett who said wealth is the transfer of money from the impatient to the patient. And we've definitely seen that in the markets recently, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the other trait of successful people, or one they don't have, I guess, is that they don't think the world owes them anything. Hey, they may have done a degree at university, they may have done an apprenticeship, but they actually don't expect a free lunch.
No, they don't, and they understand that the rest of the world doesn't owe them anything. Whether it's a title, or benefits, a big salary. I mean, they're prepared, as we said before, they're prepared to consistently and continuously put in the work, knowing that will reap the benefits in due course.
Now, some people may be listening to us, Mark, and wondering, well, they keep talking about successful people, these two guys on the podcast. What is success? And I think everyone's got a different definition of success. And so therefore, I think the first thing successful people do is that they're grateful and appreciate what they've got. But one of the things they don't do is they don't define them purely about their success purely on money, do they?
No, they don't. If I lined up all of the people that we deal with in Mastermind, Michael, including you and the other directors of Metropole, money is not the sole motivator. Money is not what gets them out of bed in the morning. I mean, it's great to have the money, and the money gives them is a tool that they can use to do some great things with, but it's not the main thing. So they define their success with happiness, with peace, with positive contributions, with contributing to their community. Obviously, being financially secure opens up those opportunities and takes a bit of stress off. All the money in the world can't make you happy if you're unable to feel happiness inside.
Sure. So money can solve problems in those areas where it can solve problems, but it can't solve problems in a whole lot of other areas of your life. Having said that, any problems that money can solve isn't a problem. But it's interesting, we get together once here at Wealth Retreat, outsiders would look at this and say, boy, they're greedy people. They're already wealthy. They've already got money. They've already got nice cars. They've got successful businesses, a big property portfolio. Why are those greedy people going there to become more successful, to have more money? And in fact, that's not the case at all. Because when we talk at Wealth Retreat, money is part of the discussion, but people actually plan the next 5 years of their life in all sorts of ways. And yes, financial success is part of it, business success is part of it, but it's also relationships, health, contribution, recreation, a whole lot of areas. So truly successful people are wealthy in many ways, and financial wealth is only part of it. Now, I know it's only a few months away, and you and I are already starting to plan a bit for Wealth Retreat, which is happening at the end of April this year, 2023. Already, Mark, about a third of the places are taken by people who come back every year. About a third, 40% of the people have come a second and a third time. And people may wonder, well, hey, haven't you taught them properly? But it's their mindset of wanting to keep learning, keep growing. And even though the questions are the same, the answers are different this year.
Well, I think what happens is, that's a great saying, by the way, the questions are the same, but the answers are different. And I think what happens is that people get more and more fine-tuned. You and I were just talking recently, I think this will be my 9th or 10th Wealth Retreat, maybe 4th or 5th as a presenter. But I think that I know that when I sat in the back of the room at Wealth Retreat last year, there were still things that I learned. And sometimes, Michael, it's not something new. It's just, yeah, that's right. I said last year I was going to do that and I didn't. Or I said last year I was going to focus on that, or I was going to make more of a contribution in that part of my life, and I haven't. So I think I don't use the term life-changing very much, but gee, I'd certainly pin that on the chest of Wealth Retreat if I could.
So if you're listening to this podcast today and you want to make 2023 the beginning of the next stage of your life, if you're looking to make the next 5 years of your life meaningful in all sorts of ways, and that's the theme of Wealth Retreat, where will you be in 5 years' time, go to wealthretreat.com.au. I'll leave a link in the show notes and find out about it and express your interest. Now, I speak to everybody who joins us at Wealth Retreat to make sure it's suitable for you and that you're suitable for the Wealth Retreat community. And I'm prepared to back myself. I've every year given a money-back guarantee, and never ever has anyone even gone close to asking for it because of the huge amount of value we've got. But it's also partly because I make sure that if you're going to join us, it will be suitable for you. So go to wealthretreat.com.au and leave us your details there if you like the idea of being in a room with already very successful people. And it's not just the faculty, Mark, it's the others in the room, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just about to say that, Michael, that I mean the faculty you have is an amazing faculty of very clever, very successful people. But the thing I love about Wealth Retreat is that you know the community within the room. So you're in the room with 80 other people or 90 other people, whatever the number may be, but they are all people that are all rowing in the same direction. They're all looking for the same thing that you are, which is in fact what we're talking about today, this holistic view of success.
Yes, it is. Okay, back to the list of things that successful people don't do. We got a bit sidetracked with Wealth Retreat, but that's okay. They actually have a plan. In other words, they don't, if we talk about what they don't do, start the day without a plan or without a purpose.
We just ran a session in Mastermind this morning, which is what we call, it was, preload the year. And it's about loading the year ahead and having a very clear short, medium and long-term goals. And also then knowing what needs to be accomplished across the year to achieve those goals and actually preloading them into your calendar. And that's exactly what successful people do. They don't start their day, their week, their month or their year without having a crystal clear plan in place.
And perfection isn't really a goal though, is it?
No. Yeah, progress over perfection is what successful people practice. And in fact, perfection can get in the way. I think it was...
Yes, it can, can't it?
Yeah, it can. And I often say to Michael, when I'm coaching people is, one of the big things we get is getting people to let go, right? And they go, I can't let go because they can't do it as well as me. And my answer is, can they do it 80% as well as you? If the answer is yes, then let go. So it's not about perfection. It's about progressing to the next stage. And that's how you're going to do that, is by taking perfection out of your vocabulary.
And as we work through the list of what successful people don't do, they don't surround themselves with negative people. And as we said a bit earlier on, there's lots of negative people, glass half empty people rather than glass half full people around, aren't there?
Yeah, there is. It can be easy to absorb that negative energy and being around toxic people and watching the news. I was having a coffee the other day with a very dear old friend, and we were talking about the news, and he said, they keep talking about interest rate hikes. But, is 25 basis points really a hike?
It's the spin they put on it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's all negative. So surrounding yourself with negative people, listening to negative news. Instead, what successful people do is they surround themselves with other positive, proactive people who inspire them to achieve great things and to live their life full out.
Now, some people are going to say, yeah, but where do I find them? Because the trouble is you're already got your experiences, your friends, your close circle. So it's often hard to find a group of people that have got the positive outlook that you have or want to have. And I guess that's where you've filled a gap, Mark, for business people with Business Accelerator Mastermind.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody that's in our mastermind program is positive in their outlook. They all want to achieve success. Means different things to different people, but they're all looking to achieve their definition or their version of success. And again, helping each other to get there as well. That's the community in mastermind. It's the community in Wealth Retreat. And that's what actually helps propel people to the next level.
Well, there'll be people listening to this who are in business or professional practice who say, I want to do things differently this year. So let's give Business Accelerator Mastermind, which we're partners in, a quick plug. What could you do for them? What is your message for those people who say, I want to make this year a much, much better year?
So the message is pretty simple, Michael, and that's, well, first of all, let's simply have a chat about and let's see what's possible. Let's see what we can do. But what we do in Mastermind is we help people to build a business that they're not a slave to get back to the time, the money, the freedom, the reason they went into business in the first place. You know, and it often gets lost. You might be making the money, but it's costing you the time, or it's costing you the freedom, or you've got the time and the freedom, but it's not making the money. So the whole idea is to help them to create a business which is less reliant on them whilst making more money at the same time.
Well, I'll leave a link in the show notes, but go to Metropole Mastermind and have a chat with Mark. See if you can make this a great year for yourself as well. So rather than focusing on all the negatives that are going to keep hitting us this year, focus on the positives and put a group of people around you who are there to support you and take you to the next level. Because I think that's one of the other success traits of people, or if we put it in the negative, as we're trying to say in this discussion about things they don't do, they don't stop learning, do they?
No, they don't. They have mentors, coaches, people around them to inspire and motivate them. They're kept accountable. And one of the things we do in Mastermind all the time is we have very strong accountability, and it's to give people that support and that push along. And I think, Michael, successful people don't stop learning. They're always learning, and they're always open to making improvements, and they're also prepared to invest in themselves in that process.
So, Mark, we've been very serious about all this and all the things you shouldn't do and some of the things you should do. But one of the things successful people don't do is they don't underestimate the power of having fun. So if you put that in reverse, they've got to enjoy the journey. Otherwise, the destination is not going to be any fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Successful people know how to relax. They know how to have fun. I shot a video just yesterday, Michael, about this matrix of focus and fun. And how to be successful, you actually have to not be distracted and you have to be focused. But there's no sense being focused if you're miserable. So, you're running along super focused and things are going really well, but you hate what you're doing. So it's finding that sweet spot between being laser focused and actually enjoying what you do on a daily basis.
Now, I know a lot of those videos go in your weekly email that goes out every Thursday. And if you're listening to this podcast and you don't get Mark's weekly message, which is written but also video, and you're a great talker as people can hear, I'm going to leave a link in the show notes where you can subscribe to that weekly email. You can always unsubscribe if it doesn't suit you, but it's particularly for you if you're in business, if you're planning to get into business, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you've got a professional practice. Because I watched the video that went with I actually prefer watching than reading, even though reading's quicker in some ways. But I love the message that you sent out yesterday, Mark. The other thing that successful people don't do is they don't live in the past, Mark.
No, they don't live in the past because they accept that what's happened has happened. Michael, you and I have gone through a little bit of self-sabotage at various times in our lives, and if we got caught in the past, we would never have moved on. But if you keep dwelling what was, I think you'd just be completely unable to be present for what is. And if you're not present for what is, then you can't really have a positive impact on what's to come.
Yeah, your past doesn't define you or limit what's possible moving forward. So you've got to let go of the past and move forward. And I think a good way to finish off this list of things that successful don't do is that they don't end the day without giving thanks. They're grateful, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And the thing about it is that we were talking before about negative news and positive news, and it's really hard. But the reality is if you stop and you look at your day and your life, there is always something to be grateful for. And Michael, there's a great book written by an Australian teacher called The Resilience Project that talks about the scales of gratitude and that very practice. And something successful people don't do is they don't finish their day, their week, their month without reflecting back on it and going, do you know what? I've actually got a lot of things that I can be really grateful for. And that's what helps them to push on to the next level.
Well, I'm not a metaphysical person, but I do every night before I close my eyes, actually after I've closed my eyes, I look back at the day and I work out what I'm grateful for. And many of the things are the same. I try to think of something different each day, but it tends to be related to the time I've spent with my grandchildren, the time I've spent with Pam, fun things. It's not about the deal that's happened. It's not about the nice car I drive or sometimes it's the vacation we've had, but it's experiences rather than things.
Do you drive a nice car?
Oh, not as good as I used to.
What?
No, actually.
Well, hang on, so the car's not as good as it used to be, or you don't drive as good as you used to?
Yeah, I've gone from the coupe to an SUV, but yes, it's a nice model.
You're 100% right, though, that gratitude is not about those things. And having said that, though, when you sit in your nice car, you need to be grateful for it. When you live in your nice home,
I actually do enjoy it, so I'm grateful for that as well. I am very, very lucky.
But it's life is made up of moments, Michael. And so it is those precious moments. It's those moments that you spend with Pam, those moments with the grandkids, those moments with friends and colleagues and watching people grow and develop. And I think part of that is doing the sort of thing that we're doing right now.
Oh, I think that's important also because, interestingly, one of the things that really makes my day is when I get a comment on YouTube or on the podcast apps or just an email from somebody who I've never met, and sometimes they're not even clients of Metropole. They've bought a book at the airport or at a bookshop, or they've listened to the podcast and it's changed their lives. And that makes a big, big difference, and it makes me feel really good. And that's partly a large part of what we do. I know you and I feel that we've been very successful in our lives and in our businesses, so it's our obligation. I don't see it as an obligation. It's maybe more a responsibility to give back, to let other people move up the ladder too.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a responsibility and a privilege, and it's something that I know you and I do on a daily basis. And I appreciate that we can, and I appreciate that I get the opportunity to do it with you as well.
We're very lucky that we can, so I look forward to catching up with you again in a month. And people should be watching out for your podcast that's coming out in 2023. We'll be giving them all details about that real soon.
Thanks, Michael.
In a moment, I'm going to share my mindset message with you. But if you got some benefit from my chat with Mark Creedon, and I have a chat with him once a month on this podcast, and if you don't currently subscribe to this podcast, may I suggest you take a sec and on whatever podcast app you're listening to this now, follow the show so we update you every time a new show comes out. Of course, if you really enjoyed my chat with Mark today, you'd love what he'll be teaching the delegates at Wealth Retreat, our 5-day retreat we're conducting at the end of April, which is designed to help you plan the next 5 years of your life. When you join us, you're going to be surrounded by the best faculty of property, tax, business and finance experts who are going to provide knowledge-sharing sessions, and they're going to mentor you on planning your success. You see, the theme at Wealth Retreat is where you're going to be in 5 years' time. And that's in all areas of your life, not just money. Now, have you heard about the law of diminishing intent? I think Jim Rohn said it, something along the lines of, the longer you wait to do something you should do now, the greater the odds are that you're never going to actually do it. Now, I'm not just talking about Wealth Retreat. That's a shortcut. It's a proven means to an end. I'm talking about investing your time to set clear, compelling goals based on your personal purpose, your priorities, your potential. You see, it's the beginning of a new year, and you're getting probably a theme through some of these podcasts about how you're going to have to reset yourself to take advantage of this year where the property markets are going to reset. But if you know your goals, getting them and planning them should be something you should do, so don't put it off for another minute. Oh, by the way, when you join us at Wealth Retreat, we're going to upgrade your wealth operating system, which is going to change the way you look at your financial future. It's actually going to change your goals tremendously. People come in with all their goals and then they go out with a 5-year plan. Not just new goals, but a plan to get there and a toolbox full of tools to achieve their newly upgraded goals. You see, at Wealth Retreat, we offer you the perfect environment to help you set new goals, to uncover your own wealth building strategies, to learn from industry experts, and also to make meaningful connections. What I've found is a lot of successful business people and investors are isolated. They don't have people to share their experiences with or to learn from. They need to get around a new crowd, and that's what happens at Wealth Retreat. That's one of the huge benefits, having an instant network of already successful property investors, business people and entrepreneurs to talk to. So go to wealthretreat.com.au, express your interest. You can't book in. I speak to everybody who goes along because I guarantee your success at going there. And when you leave your details, you can already start planning for a more financially secure future. I look forward to getting to know you at Wealth Retreat. Now, whilst for successful business people, and in particular successful investors, it's really more investors that come along, don't count yourself out. Go to wealthretreat.com.au and find out about the event, leave us your details, and I'd love to have a chat and see, is it appropriate for you?
Now here's Michael's mindset message. Remember, a change in your thinking will lead to a change in your life.
In my mindset message today, I'd like to share a lesson with you that basically says the longer it takes, the longer it will last. Now, I got the concept of this chat from a blog by my good friend Tom Corley, who regularly writes a Property Update, and he's my co-author in the new book, Rich Habits, Poor Habits. Now, why I say new book is because we had the second edition just come out where we've updated it for the current financial markets. You can go look at that at richhabitspoorhabits.com. But Tom explained that the average red oak tree takes 15 to 20 years to produce its first acorn, but it will then go on to produce acorns for up to 350 years before that big red oak dies. Conversely, a cherry tree takes about 4 years to produce sweet cherries, but its longevity is short-lived. It'll produce cherries for only about 20 years before it dies. And Tom explained that becoming wealthy, like the mighty red oak, takes a long time. He did a study of self-made millionaires, his Rich Habits study, and he found that on average it took self-made millionaires between 12 and 32 years to become wealthy, depending upon the path that they used. They found different paths to become wealthy. But he said almost every self-made millionaire in Tom's Rich Habits study, other than the saver investors, shifted into wealth management mode once they became wealthy. They did everything within their power to preserve and grow their wealth long after they became wealthy. Not one of the self-made millionaires in his study squandered their wealth once they became wealthy. Not one? I've wondered about that, but apparently not. You see, the path to becoming wealthy is a long journey. The self-made millionaires in Tom's study understood how hard it was to accumulate their wealth, and because of this, because of their smart money mindset, I guess, that got them there, they intended the wealth that they created during their lifetime to go on long after they were dead, to create intergenerational wealth benefiting their children, their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren. And I understand that. That's what I'm doing. See, these people in his study saw their wealth as an opportunity to benefit many future generations. That was their legacy. Conversely, according to the National Endowment of Financial Education, about 70% of all lottery winners go broke within a few years. You've heard that before too. You know, easy come, easy go. Because they didn't work on building their wealth over many years, the wealth really didn't have the value for them other than spending it or giving it away to their family and friends. So if your goal is to become wealthy and keep that wealth within your family, you must build a solid foundation, said Tom, forged with smart money habits forged over many years, which can then be passed on to your children. But building that sort of a foundation takes time. But the longer it takes, the more sound the foundation will be. So my question to you in my mindset message today is, which tree would you rather be? The cherry tree or the long-lived red oak tree? Well, thanks for spending the last little while with me, and I hope you got some benefit from this show. If you did, and you know somebody else who'd also benefit, please tell them about the Michael Yardney podcast. There's a share button on every podcast app. On Apple Podcasts, there's 3 little buttons down the bottom. Press it and share it, or just tell them about the Michael Yardney podcast. I hope you're going to be doing them a favour, and you'll definitely be doing me a favour and helping me in my quest to make as many people as possible financially literate. Now, there's ways of catching up with me between these shows. Just look for Michael Yardney on social media, or why not join my private Facebook group? Go to Facebook and look for the Property Update Facebook group. And I have a way of saying thank you to you for subscribing to this podcast. Go to podcastbonus.com.au. There'll be a link in the show notes, podcastbonus.com.au, where you can get a bunch of ebooks and reports. My way of saying thank you. And when you've got time, why not listen to some of the old podcasts? There's individual lessons in each of those that I think would be helpful for you. I'll be back again real soon. In the meantime, have a great week. Make it a great week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, which was brought to you by Metropole, who help their clients grow, protect, and pass on their wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. If you like what you heard and don't already subscribe, you'll find us on iTunes or on your favourite Android app as the Michael Yardney podcast. Watch out for our next show, which comes to you twice a week, and you'll learn some new ideas about property investment, success, and money in around 30 minutes. To get more of Michael's thoughts, go across to www.propertyupdate.com.au and sign up for his daily morning briefing, and you'll hear from not only Michael but a group of leading property success and money experts. And just a reminder that the information you heard in this show today is general educational advice and not specific investment advice, as we don't know your personal circumstances. If you're looking for specific advice, why not ask the team at Metropole to help you?